topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hi, this is Shelby Wagner, and I welcome you to my show, Learning to Dance in the Rain, where we have conversations with experts who have managed to overcome their life challenge and give you ideas to help you do the same. I'm the author of Learning to Dance in the Rain, Surviving Grief, Internet Dating, and Romance Scams, a resource guide, which are both available on Amazon. And if you have any questions today for our guest, I suggest you call 561-623-9429, and we'll see if we can address those, okay? And I'm very excited to welcome Jeff Ford back to my studio. He was here a few weeks ago, and I thought his business would be a very good thing for us to discuss in a separate episode. His title today is From Boardrooms to Breakthroughs, and this is Jeff Ford's mission to empower entrepreneurs in North Africa. Jeff is a dynamic leader who seamlessly blends his corporate achievements with lessons and his passion for education. He has worked in the automotive industry for companies such like Lexus and Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and he has owned his own business for about 10 years before he sold it a few years ago to help mentor students wanting to start their own business and become entrepreneurs. And today he's here to discuss how he does that. Come on out, Jeff. I'm glad to see you. Hi. Welcome back to Dance in the Rain. You doing okay?
Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to turn it right over to you. The first question maybe that I would have is, what inspired you to transition from a successful corporate career in the automotive industry to focusing on education and mentorship? Is that a good place to start?
Sure. You know, it's kind of funny you said in your introduction, seamless transitions to other careers. It wasn't always seamless. Sometimes it was pretty rough, and but that's what made it interesting. And yeah, many of our transitions many of mine, speaking for myself in any way, many of mine were not seamless, and they were not easy, and they were not expected. And it's how you navigate them and what you do with them is what counts. But yes, I had a long corporate career in the automotive industry. I'm a car guy. I just love cars. And I got a chance to work with some really great brands, as Shelby said, Audi and Mercedes-Benz and Lexus and Toyota, and just had a great time. One of my favorite experiences was driving the first Audi R8 on the test track in Phoenix and having it wide open. And that was lots of fun. And probably being the product launch manager of Audi was one of my most favorite experiences in my career. But what prompted me to move away from the auto industry wasn't anything that I chose. I was laid off. So my transition was being laid off. So I believe in for my own personal faith, God does his best work when he pushes us into a corner. And at that point, I realized that I had to do something very different. The automotive industry was in a recession, and I had always dreamed about starting my own business. And so I did. I started a pool and landscaping business in Southern California, and built it up over the course of 10 years to 5 trucks and 6 employees and 200 weekly accounts, and really enjoyed it, especially the landscaping side. I just love that part of the business, especially. But it was getting to be too much, too many hours, and I'll share with you later in some of the other discussions later. But I decided it was time to sell, and I got the right price for it and sold it. And but I've always had an interest in education. I've always had an interest in especially college level. My dad was a professor of economics and law at a local community college, and my mom was a teacher, and I just love academia. And I secretly always wanted to be a professor, but was never able to afford the time to go back to get a PhD. So I take the opportunities that I am given to teach and mentor and impact the educational academia. So yeah, so that's what I did. After selling my business, I had this time available to me because I no longer was working full time, and an opportunity arose for me to go to North Africa, and I took it. It was, most of my friends, including my family, thought I was crazy. But a friend of mine said to me, nothing worthwhile in life takes place unless it's outside your comfort zone. And that was definitely way outside my comfort zone.
Do you find that a lot of time when a person decides to do something like that, go off in their own business or something they've been struggling with, and they decided to do that, the family or your friends are rather negative about the whole thing? Seems to me that I've met a lot of people that's happened to.
Yes, I think in the end, in my case, my family and my friends supported me in what I was doing, both in terms of starting my own business. In fact, when I started my own business, I started in the pool business first because my brother was in the pool business and had been for 30 years. So I really, just a shout out to my brother, he was one who was really my 911 call when I was in trouble when I first started the pool business. And he was a great support. And without his help, I wouldn't have made it. And likewise, when I decided to go to North Africa, my family was not in favor of it. In fact, they had a lot of the impressions that I was going to a dangerous place and that my life could be in danger. And why would you do that? Why risk that? And in the end, they accepted that I was doing it. I don't think they embraced it, but they accepted it. And at the end of the day, you need to do what's right for you, and you need to take those kind of chances sometimes. And then you have those experiences that you can tell about when you return. And that's the reason why I did it. So with or without their support, I was going to go. But I tried my best to convince them of the merits of what I was doing. And I think after I got back they were both relieved. And
Imagine.
yes, and very happy to hear about the experience. It was a life-changing experience, that's for sure.
Would you like to talk about the cultural differences you found over there that are from what you're used to here in the U.S.?
Sure. Well, first of all, like I said earlier, you know, we we kind of take for granted how many things and how blessed we are here to live in this country, and the things that we take for granted are really simple things that you aren't even aware of until you go somewhere where it's not present, where it's not taken for granted. So, for example, silly things, like after I wash my laundry, I put them in the dryer. Not true in North Africa. You hang them on a clothesline outside like all your neighbors do. I didn't have a car, so I relied on the public transportation system, which was reasonably reliable. But you certainly have to, because I stuck out like a sore thumb as a Westerner, you had to be careful of being taken advantage of because they knew that you weren't from there. I think, other things are also true. You take for granted that you have your cell phone with you and that you're going to get Wi-Fi. Not true in North Africa, not true in most parts of the world. Wi-Fi is not something that's omnipresent. It's not as common. So those are just a few examples, but when you're immersed into a new place where, in my case, in North Africa, the language wasn't mine. They spoke Arabic and French, and some English, especially the young people. But you're also in a country with a completely different religious orientation, 99% Muslim. So you have a new currency, you have a new language, a new religion. You don't know anything about the transportation. I mean, you're really in a zone of discomfort, like I said earlier, where you aren't feeling like you're in total control. And that's where a great deal of learning comes in, But I learned some of the things that I learned in my experience is that I'm really curious about other cultures, which is really a great benefit when you travel or live somewhere else, because locals really appreciate that curiosity, and they love to tell you about what's unique about them. And it's just respectful to come in and want to learn more about them. And I learned a lot about building those relationships and building relationships with people who are so different from me. And quite honestly, many of them are without hope for much of a future in their own country. And many of them aspire to go to Western Europe or to go to the States. And I, as a Westerner, will probably be in their lifetimes the closest they will ever be to doing that. And so I had a natural conversation point in that regard, because it's, people from North Africa rarely get visas to travel, and their only route to travel is illegal or dangerous. And so it was really great to be able to have those conversations with them and to help provide them some hope for their own future.
Mm-hmm. Did you find a lot of college students were interested in your program and interested in becoming entrepreneurs?
Yes. Most college students were interested in me and my culture. Many of them also were interested in becoming entrepreneurs. Those were the ones I was primarily working with. And, the culture is not in North Africa is not really entrepreneurial oriented. Many governments in North Africa are they provide a really not as generous as Western Europe, but certainly an expectation of a safety net. And the jobs that they aspire to are often government jobs. So they don't really have an entrepreneurial mindset like the States, like China, for example. But those who do are often, they're kind of they are anomalies in their own society, but they're admired among their peers. So among the college students who want to be entrepreneurs, they have a really great fraternity among themselves for those who want to start their own business. And the sad thing is that it's very difficult because of that climate in North Africa. It's not easy to start your own business. And often there are business and government interests that work against them rather than for them. And so it takes a great deal of patience and fortitude and dedication to start your own business there. And and often the entrepreneurs who wanted to become entrepreneurs also had advanced degrees. So to be honest, they had a backup plan. They had a parachute. They can always go back to working in the field that they wanted to work in. And as some of you know, and I certainly experienced it, when you want to launch your own business, you have to be all in. And there are countries, especially in Africa, where if you don't launch your own business, you don't eat. And that wasn't really the case in most of North Africa. They always had a little bit of security in terms of their family or the government or a potential job that they could fall back on. So there wasn't the kind of urgency to succeed in business that are experienced in other parts of Africa. And there's not as much openness and encouragement for entrepreneurs as there is here in this country.
How did you integrate lessons from the corporate world into your initiatives with these students?
Well, in the corporate world, there's certain skills that you learn, especially the longer you are in the corporate world. One of them is you have to compromise sometimes. You need to collaborate. Collaboration is really important so that you get along with other departments. You can't expect to get things done very quickly because there's many people who have to approve it, and meetings and committees. I think you also learn, though, how to be respectful, how to present yourself, and those are things that I tried to convey in my own training and mentoring with the people I worked with. North Africans are much better at some of the basic skills. I think that we now, especially in this entitlement mentality that young people often have, they seem to be really good at showing up. They show up, they're dressed professionally, they're not as preoccupied.
Sorry.
So those kind of things, they understand more completely than young people here. But transferring some of those things from the corporate world, I think just came naturally because it was just me and what I had learned. So just kind of living it out when I was with them.
Part of you, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. In what ways did immersing yourself in the North Africa culture influence your approach to your mentoring and your leadership?
Well, one theme that I want to make sure I get across here is whether you're teaching and mentoring or working in the corporate world or starting your own business, it's so much about relationship building and building the trust that with people who don't know you well through your questions, through your curiosity, um, and I think relationship building is what I found the most rewarding part of it is just that meeting for coffee. And believe me, North Africans love to drink coffee. Meeting for coffee and having long conversations, asking questions that they've never heard of before, answering their questions that they were always curious about.
Mm-hmm.
I think also it's important to know that if you really want to understand and convey respect in another culture, you need to learn their language. And I didn't study Arabic, but I did study French while I was there. And that was really appreciated by them. But ironically enough, the young people, even though they took French and English most of their life, they wanted to speak English because they knew that English was a language of their future and French was a language of their past.
Oh,
But
really?
so curiosity, relationship building, language, food, that's always a big one. Learning their food, understanding their food and partaking with them and enjoying it. That's a really big part of being, and something that I just love. I really enjoy that part of it. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, Shelby, but hopefully I did.
I think you did very well. Yes. What qualities do you believe are essential for an aspiring entrepreneur?
Well, some of those I just mentioned. I think relationship building as an entrepreneur is just as important. When I was owned my own business and started my own business, you need to develop relationships with your customer, that especially your early customers, that convey your care and trust in your integrity. Really, I think another quality is that as an entrepreneur, you need to be humble. You have to have the courage to fail and move on, but you also have to be humble to be sure that you ask for help and get the help from other people, and that's you have to do it early on and during the whole process. That's why securing a mentor who you can work with or call on is so important. But being able to try it and fail and pivot if you need to, that's a really essential idea. Everyone has ideas, but execution is much more difficult, and executing well is even the most difficult. But if you do all those things, if execution is even more important than the idea itself. If you execute well, even a bad idea can succeed.
That's, yeah, even a bad idea, huh? Executed well. Do you have an example? No, never mind.
I'll think of one as we talk.
Did you recognize, or did the students in North Africa demonstrate any misconceptions about Americans or about starting your own business?
Well,
What do they think of us? Are they? You said they were friendly and wanting to learn about us.
yes. Misconceptions. They feel like we are all rich, we're all wealthy, and in many ways we are compared to them, but not in quite the way that they perceive. Much of what they perceive, unfortunately, is they're getting it from social media and television, and that, of course, distorts a lot of reality. So they definitely have some misconceptions of that. I think they also have religious misconceptions about our country as well. Being in a region of the world that is 99% Muslim, it's very much ingrained in their culture, not just the religion, but the traditions of being in a Muslim country. They're very intertwined. And they assume that's true here in the States as well, which is it's not quite the same. We have much more diversity in terms of our religious faiths. And I think because they have this, because of their faith, they also have misconceptions of what Christianity is and what it advocates. I found that very often. I think other misconceptions, I think they just want to know more. I don't think that they have a lot of, other than the social media, other conceptions of us that are necessarily inaccurate. They just they're curious. That's what's so wonderful about working with college students, because they're open-minded. They want to know more. They ask questions. And that's what just is so thrilling and exciting for me, because I like that atmosphere.
When you were talking about they think that we're very rich, that reminded me of long ago when we had an exchange student from Sweden, and we picked her up at the airport, of course, and we're getting acquainted. And then we went to find our car. When we got in the car, we were riding. She says, "Where's your limousine?" Well, a limousine? No, we didn't have a limousine. And it was quite a shock for her. She was expecting a super wealthy family, I guess. And we were, by comparisons, we were upper middle class. Yeah, okay. But we didn't have a limousine and our own driver, that was sure.
Okay, I will tell you, just to reverse your question a minute, the misconceptions that I might have had going over were corrected for me too. I mean, one of the misconceptions that I had, and especially reinforced by my family, is that it's unsafe. And I found the opposite to be true. I found that it's much more unsafe to be wandering in downtown LA at 11 o'clock at night than it is pretty much any street in North Africa. Even as a foreigner and a tourist, I never felt unsafe there. Not to say that there isn't crime, but there certainly isn't violent crime, and most of the crime is more petty theft and this kind of thing. So I never really felt unsafe there the whole time. Even one time I forgot my phone and my keys in my apartment, and I had met a friend. I was walking back, so I didn't have enough. I had enough for a taxi fare to get back home, but I was stuck because I couldn't get in my apartment, and I had no phone to call anybody. So that was a little scary. Yeah. But I managed to get back and climbed the wall to the third story, and, like Spider-Man, and got onto my balcony. And fortunately, I had left that door ajar, so I was able to get back in my apartment.
Just like the movies, huh?
Yes, right.
Sometimes I think of some movie that I've seen where they were climbing up to the second floor. I don't know if they were climbing to the third floor or not. That's pretty good for you.
I
I
did.
was I was wondering if you had a contact there who helped you in the beginning to get to your apartment or wherever you were staying, or uh, did they set you up with the students? They knew you were coming, right, at the
Yes.
university?
Yeah, I worked with an organization that was formed to help with entrepreneurs. There's a whole network in North Africa of what's called incubation uh, offices or businesses, and their purpose is to interview and recruit entrepreneurs who have ideas that are feasible, that are interesting, and that could actually work. And students compete for those kind of positions because they're provided with space in an office, they're provided training, they're provided a mentor, and yeah, so that's what I was one of those people, and they really, like I said, the college students who want to become entrepreneurs really seek after that because they get the advantage of all those benefits of space and mentoring and training. Um, but it's also kind of a status symbol for them among their peers and their parents, and so it's something that they really want to do.
Hmm. Well, you weren't just got off the airplane and you uh,
Oh,
didn't.
well, no, I had, so because I knew ahead of time which incubation center I was going to be working with, they helped me with getting acclimated and understanding the currency and how you ask for a taxi
Okay.
and how many cups of coffee you can drink during the course of the day.
For sure. Is that
Oh,
real?
they can drink 6 to 10 cups of coffee a day, no problem.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
there's always a reason to get a coffee.
I suppose a listener to our show here would like to um, go to North Africa. Do you have any advice to give them or who they might contact or?
Well, it depends on if they want to go on a vacation or a longer trip. But a vacation, um, the one thing about North Africa, it's very reasonably priced. Um, so it's very, when you look into it, it's very appealing because the price compared to other tourist destinations is really very reasonable. Um, I would suggest that they don't they don't try to do it on their own. That they go to uh, a tour company, maybe not necessarily a North African based one, but a U.S. based one who has experience going there, who can set up the tours. For example, there are some places that you're just not going to, you just won't know how to get to unless you have inside information. And yet at the same time, there are places that you don't want to miss. So you're going to need someone who knows the region to help you get that set up. I don't have any companies in mind to suggest, but do your research and I would definitely say go with a tour group. And it always helps, obviously, for us Americans, especially as you get older like me. Learning another language is difficult, but
Mhm.
learning a few important expressions in Arabic would be really helpful and really ingratiate you to the locals.
Yeah, I remember long ago when we took a trip to Europe and we got off uh, we had spent time with my sister-in-law and brother-in-law who were living in the Netherlands, but we took a trip by ourselves by the train, and we got off the train in Paris, and oh my gosh, I never saw such a huge place in my life with all these tracks and everything. And it would have been nice to have somebody kind of direct me. Here we were, and I thought, oh, where do we go next? Finally spotted an information stand down at the end of the track, and we got on our way. But it was overwhelming at first there not to have somebody meet us and direct us to our next point of contact.
Oh yeah, I've traveled to many countries in my life, and probably the biggest challenge. And when you're younger, of course, you're more fearless, and going to countries, especially European countries, or traveling in the States, of course, is less intimidating for a number of reasons. They're more oriented towards tourists. Often the language is the same. When they're westernized, the facilities and transportation is easier. But I remember I traveled to Russia many years ago, and I remember speaking of the trains. The language is so different, and all the letters are so different. And I was there before the fall of the wall, so it was still the Soviet Union, and I nearly missed the last train out of this small village in Russia. And I thought, because it was 20 degrees also. I said, I'm in trouble. I'm really in trouble. And fortunately we made that train. But yeah, so traveling in North Africa isn't that intimidating or risky, but I would say you still want to get some help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, know the language a little bit anyway. My son liked the word for stop and danger. They sounded like other words that he liked to say. So you mentioned a college tour. Is that more than just going to Africa? Are you going to other universities and mentoring?
So that's a different endeavor.
Okay.
Honestly, since I know that you experienced the same thing, Shelby, I was a victim of a pig butchering scam and lost a lot of money, and most of which I had earned when I sold my company, money that I was relying on to retire with. And so that plan changed, and I really hadn't anticipated working again. And so now I'm on my fourth career. And so the college tour, just real briefly, the college tour is a company started by two co-founders 4 years ago, when his niece said, "Uncle, can you take me on college tours at 4 campuses across the country?" And he said, "I don't really have time for doing that," but he saw an opportunity. He did a TV episode with Arizona State University, 30 minutes long, interviewing 10 students, basically a virtual college tour. And he asked his niece to watch the episode, and she saw one of the students who had been an employee at Starbucks and how wonderful Arizona State was. And she also worked for Starbucks, and she got a full scholarship and full ride to Arizona State as a result of that.
Oh, wow.
But the benefit of this is that, not only are you able to visit campuses that you wouldn't otherwise be able to visit, you're able to consider you consider a lot wider net of colleges and become familiar with them and make a better choice about where you're going to go. And so the college tour is an Amazon Prime TV series, and it's 13th season. They've done 170 episodes, each with a different college and institution. So my job is to approach colleges or universities who may want to do an episode and talk to them. And right now I have 3 states: Wyoming, Montana, and Wisconsin. So I focus on those 3 states. But it's really fun because then it still keeps me in academia. I see great benefit for the universities who choose to do an episode, and the students just love it. And the ones who actually are interviewed for the episodes, they're just, I mean, they audition, they have to write their own script, and they become the stars, and there's a premiere party, and it's very effective, and the universities earn a great return on investment when they commit to that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I've only been doing it for about 2 months, but I anticipate doing that longer term.
Okay. So is there anything else that's coming up that you've got in mind?
Well, I have an opportunity. I mentioned before we went on air, I have an opportunity to go back to North Africa. There is a group going over to teach English and to young kids, and like 5 to 16 years old. Their only opportunity really in some of the remote villages to learn English is through YouTube videos. So we get to go over there. We've got a class of about 15 or 20 students. We get to teach them English, do songs with them, play games with them, and they're just delighted to welcome us. And so I'm going to go over at the end of October for 2 weeks.
Oh, see, be nice, especially now that you know a little bit more about where you're going and what you're going to be doing.
Well, you know what, Shelby, the other thing for me is that I've been looking for the right timing and reason to go, because not only did I want a good reason, but I also wanted to, I was talking about relationships earlier. There's so many friends that I still keep in contact with through WhatsApp. And I now get an opportunity to, in person, reacquaint myself and renew that relationship. And that's what I really look forward to. So I'm really looking forward to doing it. And again, it's nothing I've never taught an English class, but why not? I know that none of them are going to be speaking English better than I can. So I'm going for it.
Well, that sounds good. You got anything else going in your mind that you'd like to do in the future? What's next for Jeff Ford?
Well, I spent a lot of time with my granddaughter, who I just adore. She is my delight. And I want to continue to do traveling in the future. I have a trip I'm planning to go to Bozeman, Montana, and see Yellowstone this next May or so. But beyond that, I don't have any longer term plans.
How old is your granddaughter?
She's 5.
5. Oh, that's really cute. Yeah. My only grandson is now 10, and he's just the last 10 years have just zoomed by. And you know, each age level brings even more things that they can do, and more, you know, and he's now taking guitar lessons, and it's just amazing to see this child go from that. You know, when I had my own kids, time flew by. You were so busy, and you know, some of the times I don't even remember some of that. But with my grandson, I can remember a lot.
Yeah, so true. And every year they have their little personality develops, and I wish I had done this with my kids, and now I'm kind of wishing I do with my grandkids. But some of the things that they say and they come up with, it's like, why didn't I write that down?
Oh, yeah. You say, how do they know to do that?
Yeah.
How do they know to say that? I think when my daughter was fixing her hair in the bathroom, when he was about 4, I think, or 5, he was playing on the floor, and she was fixing her hair, and all of a sudden he hopped up and hugged her knees and said, "Mom, you look amazing." And I didn't even know that word "amazing" back then. It surprised me.
That's great.
So, do you have any thoughts about where education might be going in the future for
Well,
any group?
I think, Germany for many years has had an apprenticeship system, and they do a really good job of, I believe they still do. I know they have in the past, but I think they do a good job of tracking, putting potential students on a technical skills track that gives them a job once they finish. I think with the cost of 4-year colleges now and the huge amount of debt that many students absorb, I think that there's probably going to be a lot more online education because it's just so efficient and so much less expensive. I think there's going to be a lot more technical skills schools that will, if not nearly guarantee you a position once you get out. I think there'll be a lot more cooperation between those companies who need those technical skills and schools who are providing it. So, for example, when I was at Toyota many years ago, they helped sponsor colleges that were training techs to work in the service industry. I don't know if they're still doing that, but that's the kind of cooperation I would see going forward. And I think there'll be more interest in internships in addition to apprentice type roles. So I think a lot more merging between the interests of businesses who want to hire and colleges who want to train for those opportunities.
Sounds good. Well, we are almost out of time here, and I want to thank you very much for coming back, Jeff, and telling us what you've been doing with these young people in North Africa and here now in the United States too. And I wish you really the best of luck in all of those endeavors. And to my audience, thank you for being here. And next week, we will be having a country singer, a brand new country singer, well, at least to us. Sean Richards will be here that I'm interviewing. So I'm excited to talk to him. He's the author or composer of My Indiana Home. So you find a little bit about Midwest. Since you're from California, and now we're going to do some Midwestern things. But thank you all for being here today and listening
Thank
to
you,
us.
Shelby.
And you're very welcome. And I'll see you all next week. Bye now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.